Yes, I've started the recording.
Oh, you did? Okay, perfect. Good evening, everybody. Today is February 6th. There we go. Today's Thursday, February 6th, 2025. That's the right date? Yeah, 2025. My name is Kwame Afray, Chairperson of Land Use, and I call this meeting to order. I'd like to start this meeting by kind of doing something I'm going to call like a state of affairs. I had a couple of conversations with some community residents. They weren't really understanding the impact of the city of Yes. Some didn't know that it was actually a three-part proposal. So I decided to just summarize the entire three-part proposal in the most efficient way possible, just to have the information out there so we can understand our exposure. And then I'll roll into the actual report where I'm starting to see the effects of the passing of the proposal start to dig its heels within the community. Um, on December 6th, 2 years ago, we were introduced with carbon neutrality, right? City of Yes proposal for carbon neutrality. The primary goal for this was to modernize the city's zoning regulations to achieve carbon neutrality, which is almost zero emissions by 2050, um, aligning with the targets of one of the local laws for New York City, which is to achieve it with all commercial buildings and et cetera. The key components for that were renewable energy, which allow for solar panels, wind turbines, battery storage in areas of parking lots and roofs. It also built buildings with retrofits, zoning barriers to energy efficient upgrades. This basically means like increasing the amount of insulation required in walls, the utilization of heat pumps, green roofs, like one that's going to be on top of the Shirley Chisholm Center. All of these initiatives were a part of this carbon neutrality infrastructure or zoning text amendment, right? There was also EV infrastructure, which helped facilitate charging stations citywide. You can see our neighborhood doesn't really have a lot of them, but one notable area is the one right by our meeting center, which is on Lenox Road, right outside. There's a couple of charger stations there. But it's also supposed to include it in various garages and on curbsides for regular citizens to have access to be able to have EV cards, which ultimately leads to less emissions. Sustainable mobility, which is bike parking, micro hubs, to reduce car dependency. We've seen many facets of this. Our neighborhood actually has the City Bike Initiative as not quite as many bike lanes as other neighborhoods do, but you could be sure that that'll be coming in the future, especially that we know that the intention is to reduce our car dependency as a community board. And not only was it addressed here, it was also addressed in the housing opportunity initiative, which we most recently dealt with. And lastly was to support clean energy networks. This is more green energy in the neighborhoods. This is the implementation of electrification of or using less natural gas. This is for uh, I'm going to leave it at that, but it's more or less just increasing the energy efficiency of what's allowed within our vehicles for our emission tests, et cetera, to try to reduce that. That was part one of the plan. And the reason that I'm speaking on it is that I don't believe, or I believe that had the plan been given to us in one complete package, it would have probably gotten a lot more pushback than it did. Not to say that it didn't, but seeing the plan as a whole now, now that we're at the end of it, we could understand what the intention was from the very beginning. The next step was last year in June, right at the end of our fiscal calendar. We discussed it in that calendar year at length. That was the City of Yes for Economic Opportunity. The idea or the goal under this mandate was to foster economic growth by creating jobs, supporting businesses to modern needs like remote work, um, emerging industries. I know that they were actually targeting in our specific district, our industrial sections, They wanted to actually create more flexible commercial spaces. They had the idea or the intent was to cut the red tape for many small businesses and entrepreneurs, to simplify the approval process for getting like outdoor dining, being able to do like pop-up shops, things along those lines. They were looking for to create hubs in communities or facilities for these hubs for life sciences, for technology, for green manufacturing and textiling. Um, and they updated the provisions for labs and clean production in various areas and on various zoning districts, which our neighborhood happens to have quite a few of them. They're scattered, but quite a few of them. And that speaks to a meeting that I attended last week, which we'll speak on more towards the end of this report. And we'll actually dedicate some time during new business because it's a heavy topic that's happening. Excuse me. Nightlife and culture. It expanded the opportunities for entertainment venues, performance spaces, and 24-hour businesses in appropriate areas. We were also affected with this. Neighborhood revitalization, remove barriers to local services, bike repair shops, micro distribution centers, reduce parking mandates, and lower the cost for businesses. That's the second time we heard about parking mandates in an initiative. It was probably the medicine when the poison was coming. And the purpose for the entire proposal was to modernize zoning in a post-pandemic environment to evolve with the trends that were coming, right? So they wanted to boost entrepreneurship. They wanted to create some sort of ground for growth in neighborhoods and underserved areas, however you define that, and try to boost job creation by allowing things that weren't allowed in certain districts to be allowed under certain provisions, right? And the ultimate goal was probably to try to future-proof New York City for the things that they know were incoming, right? They knew that certain industries were becoming boisterous. They needed to try to reduce the amount of, let's call it red tape, it would be required for certain businesses in certain aspects to be able to thrive or be able to execute and actually open business and to remain in business without having any issues. This was the beginning to that. And lastly, which is the one that's the freshest, is our housing opportunity. These opportunities are, I mean, these key points are fresh to us. We know they were trying to diverse the housing types. There were many housing incentives. You had the office commercial conversions. You had the reduced parking mandates. You had all the inclusive neighborhoods. You had them trying to address, and the purpose of the entire thing was to try, or the intent, I'm going to use the word intent. The intent of the thing was to try to address the housing shortage, which we know is not a single lane issue. There's many things that contribute to having housing shortages in our neighborhood and across the city. But, you know, this one size fits all initiative was trying to address that specifically by lowering housing costs, which was the intent, by increasing what they deem affordable, which we know we have that conversation continuously. They wanted to increase access to neighborhoods by allowing more senior housing and the allowing of using particular campuses that wouldn't have been allowed in the past to be utilized today. Specifically for housing, we know about the town center zoning and the modernized zoning that's going to be happening in our neighborhood, specifically around the transit areas and our business corridors. And the idea was to increase growth, period, you know, in our neighborhood and others. But the idea is to increase housing, period. Affordability is a question that's often spoken about, but I'm not sure if it's actually been executed. But the intent for the all three trifecta was to address climate change, to accelerate renewable energy, green infrastructure, and to revitalize the economy by supporting and giving avenues to small businesses, and to try to attempt to address the housing crisis by basically removing boundaries that were in place for many years to allow developers to increase their yield in the amount of houses that they can build in specific areas, which in the past they would need to have gone through a community board to do so, but by changing the zoning rules and what would be allowed in certain areas, they could subside that process and accelerate that growth exponentially. I hope I did a good job at that. Sorry, I was trying to process it as I was speaking. Before I move on to the next few topics, is there any questions pertaining to what I just explained?
No, but I'd like to say that that was a very clear portrayal of it, very concise. Thank you.
I tried.
Is it possible to put that in writing?
I have it in writing in front of me. I could send it out to you. I'll have it
Yes,
packaged and sent to you tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
All right.
you.
And I know I've had individual conversations with many of you, but I felt like it was the best time to try to just catch us up to where we are as far as that initiative is concerned. Many of our group and many community residents weren't there in the beginning. They kind of got involved in the middle, and many got involved at the very end. Several didn't know that there were many parts, but now that we have the many parts have been executed and adopted, all three parts of these are adopted. I want to prepare everybody for what potentially starting to happen in the neighborhood as a result. So we're not surprised, right?
Do you actually believe that that's going to be anything beneficial for our community?
Depends on who you ask.
Right.
You're asking my opinion. It's gonna benefit somebody, right?
Not us.
It, it could benefit whoever's in the position to benefit from it, but the normal working average person probably not so much. I would think that it would probably increase more pressures in various areas that you're not really accustomed to seeing to now, but it's happening now. We did our part to try to prevent it from happening, but now that it's here, we have to try to prepare ourselves for what may be coming, right? And to add to that, I'm going to speak into the next topic for the report, and I want to just keep it open just to understand. But these are news things that came in. I know last month's meeting was canceled. I've been going through something with a family member, but I wanted to bring it up. So on January 22nd, Community Board 13 voted 21-11 against a land use proposal for Coney Island Casino, known as the Coney, right? I don't know if you were aware, a couple of years back, I attended a borough board meeting as a liaison to the chair. And at that meeting, they were voting for the approval for that casino. I guess as the process started, it actually got to the community engagement section, and that community board voted against it. As we know in the past, when you have initiatives like this that have a lot of money behind it, usually the first no is never really a no, but I will say that they did their part in trying to prevent it from happening in their neighborhood. From what I understand, the meeting was split. The idea was that it would bring a lot of jobs to the neighborhood, which people supported. But just like our issues, the other issue was that it would also displace people, right? Or bring a negative
Element.
yeah, I want to use the right word. I wanted to I wanted to pause. Not it would stimulate the economy, but it would also start bringing different types of influences to the neighborhood that they're not used to seeing, right? Much like what we're going to be anticipating in the coming days, right? So that's happening not quite on our borders, but in our region, right? So we have to pay attention to it, right? What does a casino look like in Coney Island? You know, it's a couple of towns away. What does that do? What does that do to us, and how does it affect us? Sometimes you have to look outwardly for what's going on there and what's going on in the city with the other casino proposal to see what the intent is. When nightlife disappeared in New York City, you know, everybody had an idea that it wouldn't be that long until something like this would come along to try to ramp up and bring that revenue that was lost back. and they're trying to bring it back in a big way, right? The next thing that I noticed, or news reports and from actual businesses that I actually I'm a patron of, is that local businesses in the neighborhood are not getting their leases renewed, right? Their landlords are saying that they're going in for development, and some of the businesses that we know or that we patron in our neighborhoods may not be there in the coming years once their lease is expired. The timing of it, I don't think is a mistake. I think that is probably directly related to the initiatives that recently passed. Being that it's fully passed, I would think that you would see probably more of this. It's a part of the process of change, right? So you may see some local businesses either move if they're able, or close and shutter as these aggressive changes come. I'm pretty sure that these conversations was happening long before the initiative actually went in place, but we're here now. And if you see or hear any other businesses from now, I'm speaking about businesses on the North Stream corridor, at least two that I directly dealt with. And I was sent the news report about an entire block just outside of our district on Flatbush Avenue that's completely shuttered, right? Where the businesses are not being renewed, and they'll be closing up probably in the next 6 months for the owner's redevelopment ideas, right? I'd like to monitor the frequency of this to see how quickly and rapid this is going to happen, but I can assure you that I don't believe that anybody was on the sidelines, waiting for this city of yes to pass. I'm pretty sure that people knew that it was, and they were developing ideas and concepts at the anticipation of it passing. So something that we should all monitor together. And if you see anything, just let everybody know in some way. Whether you see me in person or during this meeting would be great. The next thing that we'll speak on is the Castole. I'm only going to speak on it because I did attend the meeting, and I'm bringing this up now. So when we go into the later discussion in the meeting, at least these general details of the idea of that meeting are out of the way. On January 23rd, there was a virtual meeting held by De Castole and their lawyers and their design team, right? To talk about a project, right? The key proposals for the project is to construct an enclosed prefabricated building for carting and basically disposing of construction materials or various materials. They wanted to install a 34-foot high sound wall along 45th Street. They wanted to create a storm drainage system that would clean the drainage and the oil from from the carting and the materials that they were bringing inside, along with rainwater to distribute it, to put it out to be clean. They also wanted to put in some filtration systems to, I guess, monitor and clean out, to exhaust the various air particles that gets created. At this time, it is a partially opened facility, and the proposal, at least on paper, is to fully enclose through prefabricated construction the facility, and to lower the emissions of sound and air quality through various exhaust fans, right? They're looking to get a permit to do the operation. And the idea of the benefit is supposed to be air quality, noise mitigation, stormwater treatment, and they're looking to potentially try to reduce the odor control because they have a system that's supposed to clear that out. So we'll get into that a little bit deeper, and I'm sure there was probably some more things. There were some questions that were asked during the meeting. I will say that as a board, they did have a meeting scheduled, I think, for the 13th. I didn't really see traction on that meeting. I don't know if it was an internal meeting or a meeting that's supposed to be going out. We might be waiting for some representatives from that business to attend, or their representatives, whomever it should be, to create an additional questioning session. Should that come out, just look out for your emails, and you know, that should be forthcoming. Okay. I'm going to end my report there and open up the floor for any questions pertaining to it, should we have any. And look at the chat. Hold on. Hands up, George. You're acknowledged.
Thank you, but Adele and I think it was Khadijah had their hands up before me, so I don't want to
Okay.
jump.
Oh, no problem. So, Adele,
Yes, I remember hearing about that at the last meeting.
Okay.
And my question is, are we
you
going
remember
to
hearing
vet
about?
the place on 45th?
Yeah, the Troy. Yeah, Troy
Yes.
and 1481 Troy.
So it's partially open
Mm-hmm.
and operating?
It's been operating. They stated that they operate about 750 tons daily, but right now it's a partially open facility. So
I know they said they want to expand, but they never really did engage in this community. And only a few people, they said, got a notice.
there was definitely residents there that colored the situation for everybody who
Because
doesn't
they
live
told
directly
each other.
adjacent.
They told each other, but they did not send out proper information. That was an issue.
Yeah, that was brought up in the meeting as well. Seems like
Mhm.
I mean, we weren't even notified as a community board, as a matter of fact. No,
Yes.
we were notified as a community board and we distributed it, but apparently
Mhm.
our elected officials weren't notified.
No.
So
And some of the
that
people who
created
live
some,
in the block were not notified either. They said they never got an email from them.
yeah, that was definitely brought up. That was
Mhm.
definitely brought up. But we're
So
gonna,
we're gonna come up with another meeting.
yeah, we're trying to organize a meeting for the community board and its residents and whomever wants to attend to have more of an open forum to have these questions. There were some questions sent to me, which was great. That we want to be able to address. That's going to be coming from different sides. But we do want to have not only those questions, but any questions that may be driven from this conversation today, and any questions that weren't addressed that evening, right? Because it was like a short form, and unfortunately, there were a lot of people, a lot of opinions. Maybe they didn't get their questions asked. Everything was really spoken to, more of the history of how the business conducted itself.
Mhm.
But we did get some logistical questions asked and answered, but still, too many questions for a 2-hour session where, 45 minutes of it was the explanation of the deal and more or less.
It was very simple. It's too damn close to do that to a school and to residents.
Yeah, there was many
Mhm.
opinions, many opinions.
You have
But
the
thank
next
you.
meeting. I want to be there.
Oh, no, you'll be notified. That's in
You
discussion. It's
could get
just
the
a matter of,
managers, okay?
All right,
it's just
thank you.
a matter of that coordination with the various parties.
All right.
We want them to be present to be able to answer the questions themselves. Right,
Mhm.
that's the
Thank you.
idea. But I have to follow up. I reached out today, but I didn't get a Miss Frazier. But thank you, Adele. I'm going to. They want to enclose the facility. Why?
Mhm.
The why is the why is
They don't
the
want
one of
nobody
the
to
many
see what they're
questions.
gonna do.
It's the one of the many questions. It's are they in trouble for something? Are they behind on what they should have been doing? Are they doing something? These questions are there. Is it going to be an increase of business? They answered that question. They
Of
said no.
course.
They said no, but
Because
I
if
mean,
you
you can
don't
say
build
anything.
something, if you
Yeah.
don't build
Okay.
something, they don't change it if you're not gonna increase it. They're gonna increase it. All right, but thank you, because George gotta go.
All right, no problem. Is it Joan? Hand up?
Yeah,
Yeah.
hi, I have my hand up.
Hi.
I was at the meeting and
Okay.
Joan Erskine here. I was at the meeting. One thing that should be stated, and I'm not saying this in defense of the business already exists there. What
Mhm.
they're saying they're going to do is improve the dust, and there were residents there who complained heartily and with good reason of dust and noise pollution. And they claim that the changes that they're making would ameliorate those conditions. However, there were a lot of questions, and my understanding from the meeting was that they were going to take the list of questions and answer them and provide answers. Mr. Affray, have you heard of them providing any of those answers
No, I
yet?
haven't been I haven't been notified of any of those answers.
And do we know who they are? Who are they going to answer to? There were a number of public officials there. We were there. Who's supposed to be getting the answers to these questions?
As a representative of community board, I believe Ms. Frazier would be the point of contact for that. She's the one that actually initiated and spearheaded getting all those officials there. So from a community board aspect, it'd be Ms. Frazier, but I believe that all the parties would probably be receiving all the answers. Because there wasn't a way to distinguish, who and where the answers came from. So I'm pretty sure that all the answers would come together uh, as a package from various parties to be answered. And once we have them, or if we don't have them by the time of the meeting, we have something else to ask for. But I could try to reach out or have somebody from the office reach out to them to see if they've addressed that. Maybe it hasn't gotten to me.
Because I
All right.
think, and finally, because I do think that one of the main questions, and Adele brought it up, is why now? What's happening that
Yeah.
suddenly, not
Yeah.
suddenly, but that they're doing this now? I did notice in the application, the notice that I got, the background information, that they said they were renewing their temporary, there was something about they were trying to renew what was a temporary authorization. So anyway, it just would be very interesting to know why they are doing these ameliorative
Yeah,
measures now.
it reads to ensure compliance with New York State DEC 6 and New York RR Parts 360/361-5 regulations, a transition from conditional authorization to full permit for enclosed operations.
Yeah,
Right.
it was that conditional. I was like, that seemed key to me, that they have some sort of conditional permit and now they're applying for a full ongoing. I don't know. I'm merely
Yeah.
speculating.
Did you say
Thank you.
John?
No problem.
Mr.
Mr. Tate?
Frey, I was next, but anyway, I'm going to let, if you don't mind, let Allison speak because she sent out something to all the elected officials. But I do need to go next because I have to clarify a number of things before we go on.
Oh,
Okay?
absolutely. You have the floor,
Yeah.
Mr. Tate.
Yeah, but I want Allison to mention that, because I think she just want to mention that she sent out an email to the elected officials. Am I correct, Allison?
I just to clarify, Brooklyn Level Up sent out a letter to Dick Ostole and the elected officials and the members that I could recall, the people participants on the call that I had contact information for and could recall were on it. To get, and it basically put together all of the questions that were in the chat, as well as some additional questions that we were advised to ask from a contact that we have at NYU, who is a professor that works in air quality monitoring. And so we've today received a report, one report for that we requested about the monitoring that they have done, which we'll share, but I'm going to drop in the chat what they said, which is they're in the process of putting together responses to those questions, and they will all end up on this portion of their website that I just dropped in the chat. But I'm going to, the one issue is that I suggested that they look at their Zoom report to be able to pull all the contact information from the almost, I think, 70 people who are on that call. And it seems like they don't have that information necessarily. They have like the phone numbers, but not the any other contact information for anyone else. So I'm going to try just from the list that they sent to see if we could uh, figure out who's who, and then the ones that we know. But if there are anyone else who wants to like assist with trying to fill in those gaps, we'd be happy to have the help, because the goal is to then get everything compiled in one thing and then send that out to everybody.
That would be ideal.
But essentially, this is where they're going to respond at
Yeah,
that
I'm
link.
looking. Yeah, I'm looking at it now. I'm
Yeah.
trying to
So
see.
when it's ready, that's where they will be officially posting.
So what exactly are you looking for people to do, help you with?
Well, we have a spreadsheet now of the 70 some odd people who are on it, and we need to try to see if we could figure out the contact information for all the people who are on it.
Yeah, we need to do some canvassing because
Yes.
some people were familiar. There were familiar names in there, but they weren't people that typically
Yeah.
attend community board meetings. There were some people that probably just received notice, but don't know that there's going to be follow-up. So the idea is to try to
Right.
keep them engaged and involved in the process, especially the ones that it affects directly. There were many.
So my question then would be, is it possible to then reach out to the block and association committee to see if they may have some of these people's information?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Definitely. I'm just also gonna just say before tossing it to George that we need to be very clear about the fact that the communication and the community engagement only happened because, and I'm not gonna say only, but primarily and mostly because George Tate sent out that flyer that he received.
Yes,
The
the one that
business
was
itself
mhm.
did a terrible job of engaging the community. If it was not for George sending it out and then people sharing it with their networks and getting people, there wouldn't have been anyone on that call. CB17 did not get notification in advance of this, neither did 18. And those are easy emails for them to have. So if their goal was to, informal, we know people who live right across the street from the place who did not receive a notice.
Yeah,
So the
it
work
was mentioned.
was George. That is the catalyst for all of that. So let's not give them credit they don't deserve. Thanks. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Tate.
Yes, okay, that was one of, good evening, everyone. That was one of the clarification I wanted to make, that they did not contact CB17 because Ms. Frazier found out about it when I sent her the email, which
Okay,
a copy of the letter that I received and not everyone on the block received. I was lucky enough to receive it so I could pass it along, and I sent it out to Ms. Frazier and all the elected officials, and Ms. Frazier called me back and said, thank you, because they never contacted us. This is something, and that letter is disguising what they are really trying to do. They've been here for over 40 years. They tried to create this building before, and it's not that they are enclosing the business. They are building what they call a grinder. It's one building that they're going to add in there to grind particles, all kind of garbage that comes in there. And when they're talking about minimizing the pollution and minimizing all this minimizing that they're doing, it's not minimizing what's happening now. It's minimizing the additional pollution that they're going to bring when they grind all the garbage and the particles going into the air. So it's not that they're not enclosing the whole thing. The trucks are still going to be coming in. So we're going to have additional pollution coming from the air. And then they said that they're going to put a wall towards 45th Street. But what about the rest of us? Not only the community, but the schools that are on this side. So they are not doing us any favor by enclosing anything. No, the trucks going to still be coming in there, dumping the thing. Then they're going to be putting it into that grinder. So that dust that we are seeing now is not going to go away. This 20 years ago, they tried it, and the CB17 voted it down for that reason, because they were hiding a lot of the stuff that they were trying to do. And it's the same thing now. They claim it's a renewal. They get their license renewed on a regular basis. But the kind of renewal, because they want to hide that they are requesting the okay from the state to build this garbage grinder that we don't know what's coming in there. And whatever particles come into the air, they're not saying they're going to eliminate it. They are going to minimize it. We don't need them to minimize it. If they're going to eliminate everything, maybe, but not adding any additional pollution. So please, everybody read that letter very careful and see what they're really trying to do. Because right now, as Ms. Quashin mentioned the other day, there are seagulls over there that they're not supposed to be having any putrefiable food. I looked up on the internet, in the website, they are selling, they sell compost on the website. So if they're selling compost, those bins that Gerard was talking about, that's probably where that compost is, and that's why those seagulls are over there. If they're doing that, that's illegal, because the permit is only for dry construction refuse. Okay, so please, everybody, read it very careful, because the air is not going to be the neighborhood air. It's through all the neighborhood when the air that goes into the air. PS 198 is going to be affected. Oka Kialem is going to be affected, and all of our neighborhood is going to be affected. So again, they didn't ask anything to any elected official or community board 17. They sent it to a number of individuals in the community. People who live right across, like Ms. Quasha, she never got one. Someone who lives right across from me and East 43rd, around the corner from them, they did not get one. Okay, so that's how I'm saying. Just please read it careful, and it's not that they're doing us a favor. They are adding pollution to our air. Thank you.
Hey, I wasn't sure where it came from, but it did come to me. So if it was because of you, I appreciate that. It did get sent out. And when I did contact Ms. Frazier about it, she said she had it already. So I assumed we were properly notified, but thank you for clarifying that we weren't.
You're welcome.
It speaks to, I think I got my notification from Ms. Quashi, actually. Who I'm not sure whose hand was up next. I see Allison, I see Quashi.
Ms. Quashi was next.
Okay.
Good evening. This is near and dear to my heart. I've been living here for 4.5 decades. Since this lovely company has been here, I've been living here, they've been here. And they used to have an atrocious stench in this neighborhood when they used to do medical waste. And I can't explain how much they don't care about us. They really don't. And if you heard the tone of the contractor that they had, the consultant that they had on the phone that night, for that area to be a small industrial area in our community that faces residential, they really don't care about the residents in this community. Not one bit. So if we sit here as a community and allow them to do this to us, you might as well just sign our death sentence. Because your children, anyone's grandchildren, anyone seniors, anyone who has breathing problems are just going to die in the next few moments. And I can't say to this community board or the people on this phone call, don't sit here on your laurels and do nothing and say nothing. This is very important to everyone. And I have to say this very strongly. They really don't care. If you don't care, they really are going to have a great time doing what they want to do. So that's what I have to say. And thank you, Mr. Tate, for putting this out, because you were the catalyst. They made a mistake by giving it to you. And yes, Kwame, I'm glad that you were able to put the word out to the board. The board really needs to get their foot on our officials' back because they haven't done anything. And thank you, Allison, for putting the letter out. I went to the event for Monique's swearing in, and I was trying to get an audience with her, but it was just too much going on that evening. But I spoke to Chris, but I didn't see anything go out, and that's why I sent out a scathing letter that someone has to do something about this. This is too important. So, Kwame, please, I'm looking for you to talk to the board. Everybody should be irate. That's all I have to say.
Best believe that I'm on it.
Okay. Thank
Of
you.
course, not by myself, but with the support from everybody here, including Allison and Brooklyn Level Up. They're aware of it.
But
Obviously,
that's
there
not
weren't
enough.
many.
They
I
should
know
be
it's not enough.
screaming. They should be
I know
screaming.
it's not
And
enough.
partner with 18 to get them screaming.
Yeah, I'm definitely aware that it's not enough, and I could tell from the passion from that evening that this is going to be an issue that won't go unnoticed. I think they were trying to be under the radar, but they're very much on my radar,
We may have
and
to
they
get
will
on the
be on the
news.
board's
We may
radar.
have to get CBS, ABC, whoever we need to get. We need to get them embarrassed, right? And quickly. Because they're coming for blood.
Thank you. Squashy Hazel Martinez.
Good evening. I attended that meeting, and I have spoken to many people who have lived in this community even longer than I have, and they remember this company was a problem initially. And our community is filled, it's like a free-for-all over here. It's filled with people are allowed to come here, do whatever they want to do, and they don't live here. They would not tolerate it where they're living. Why are we tolerating a dump here? Our elected officials, since that meeting, nothing was done. Nobody really took any interest in really responding to anything. It just sat there. The letter was done the next day, and yet nothing has been done. And if we keep electing these people that don't take our interests seriously and our concerns seriously, we need to get some other people, because this is ridiculous. I mean, why are not only, I speak to a lot of people who complain about these large trucks that come into that place, and they come down from Flatbush Avenue, down Farragut Road. People have cracks in their ceilings, their walls. I mean, and they're dropping some of their dust and dirt all along the way. And there's actually a no truck zone between Albany and Flatbush Avenue and Farragut that is not adhered to. I mean, I don't even know why we have a precinct, because they don't do anything either to adhere to anything. And I mean, our children are being harmed. We're being harmed. We don't know it, but we will suffer from these things later on. And I think that no one is doing anything, and they're not having that in their neighborhood. I could bet you that man was on that call. He didn't even bother to say a word.
He was definitely on the call.
We accepted that. That's all I have to say about this.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez. Allison?
Just a couple things. We have to also think about the whole environmental picture of our community, where we have in the industrial sector is like across the street. It's next door to the residential. So and that's the entirety of what we're living in. So we have issues with flooding, air, heat, soil. We have to actually get in. I know we have a new administration that doesn't believe in those things, but it's a reality that climate change is real, and the history of redlining and environmental harms they map right over each other. So, and that's what we're living with. And we're going to need to move, not just for the board to do things, but to get our neighbors to call our elected officials. We need to have an air quality monitoring study done here that has to be put in, funding has to be put in the budget to make sure that that happens. And there are just other issues that we need to lay the groundwork for addressing while we can. And I'm hoping that this is one of those issues that will galvanize community, especially we have a school that's right there. No one knows what those children are breathing in. This company, as a, not that I don't believe that it's necessarily a business's job to do things in the community, but to be a better neighbor, seems to me you would at the very least make sure they had the air quality monitoring and the filters at that school, because the harm that can cause to children. And that to me would have been a sign of we have this business, but we're responsible neighbors in the community. So and that's 40 years of business that could have come to them to do all these years. But I'm more interested in what we as a community are going to require going forward, and what we're going to demand in terms of how we want to live and be respected. That's it.
So I'm just looking in the chat to see if there's anything else. I can't really see if there's any other hands. Are there any more hands? See any hands? Okay. So we know what's going on with this facility, or what the intent is. I think that we've been around the bush long enough to know that if a company is upgrading their facility, putting up sound walls, claiming to bring in, filtration systems and, treat storm water, that they're not doing it out of the kindness of their heart. The key to most of the issues that we're speaking on tonight is the why, and the significance of that why. Why now? I think is a very important question that needs to stay tethered to this business and this facility. After, as Allison stated, 40 years of business, what changed now to make you have a perceived change of heart? Were nefarious things happening there? Or are you in some sort of litigation that forced you to do this? Have you been doing it? How long you've been doing it? What are the long-standing effects of what you've been doing? Is the why. We have just in front of us somebody proposing to do something that they claim is, to benefit us, but it doesn't really speak out on how it benefits them. I'm pretty sure that we all in agreement with that, right? But I'll be on top of it. And it's not going to stop. The conversation is not going to stop. We're going to make sure that we get not only the questions that were generated or captured by Allison, which was great, but I have to see our position in this, right? I have to fully understand what our role is in this, where our opinion could be measured and accepted, and what can we do to influence to make sure that our opinion, at a minimum, is on record on how we feel about this procedure moving forward. They weren't particularly clear about that either that night, and I wasn't able to follow up with Ms. Frazier to see where we stand. But I will say that the sentiment in the community usually isn't quite split on this, but we've had that sentiment in the past, so I want to make sure that we're all unified in how we move forward. But I think that it's fair that everybody wants to know the why. Is that fair to ask? That the why is probably the easiest answer. It should be the simplest answer that a business should be able to answer. So Vote the project down. Like Mr. Tate. Elected official.
Kadisha was there first, then I.
Oh, sorry. I saw that. I was reading the chat. I saw the hand. Khadijah?
I have a question, and because I'm fairly new to this whole being, has there ever been a possibility of a community board going into litigation with companies? Because sometimes we can sit here and have these conversations and try to find ways, but the most of the time where they will pay attention is when they see that they're in litigation and it hurts them financially. So is that a route that the community board can go if we're hearing from our community constituents saying, hey, we don't want this and we've been having all these issues? Why can't we take them to litigations?
I don't think that in my history it hasn't happened, but I don't see why that wouldn't be an option. I would have to, you know, review and see how and what aspect you would actually come from a litigious standpoint, right? You would need to have some sort of grounds, a basis, and history of issues, which probably could be compiled. But on what grounds that you would actually bring a business if they're operating correctly or under whatever conditional provisions that they have. I'm not saying it's not possible, but I'm just saying that there's certain things or certain boxes that's going to need to be checked to see if that's feasible, you know. But I'll inquire about it. Does anybody that's been on the board longer than me ever experience the board taking legal action for any reason?
I've never heard of Hazel Martinez.
No, I never heard of the community board taking legal action. However, the elected officials could do something about it, because when Nick Perry helped us when they had that all those medical waste over there that we could not even open our windows or sit in the backyard in the summer. Basically, they told us they couldn't do anything about it until, but then Nick Perry threatened to go, went to the state, and they forced them to, they took away the license about petrifiable materials, and that's why they no longer could have any petrifiable material. Okay, and yes, that guy that was there in the meeting that wasn't answering anything is that because he's the bully of the two brothers. I think his name is Christopher, if I remember correctly. But it's two of them, because when we met with them, all the fight we had with them, like 25 years ago, it was like the good cop, bad cop, and he was a bad cop. The other one was more reasonable in discussion, but this one basically was basically telling us it's coming whether or not we like it, because they are in a business, in a commercial area. Okay. And again, after we stopped them from that petrifiable stinking stuff, that's when they came up with this thing to create this building. And keep in mind, please, that they're not enclosing the whole thing. What they're doing is creating a building within that site to burn, to grind these things from 6 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock at night. But the open space will still be there with all the trucks roaming and creating the same dust. That's what been happening. If any one of you could drive or walk around there one day, anytime between 8 o'clock and 4 o'clock, you could see what's happening around there. And it's not going to help the situation with this thing, because again, the trucks will still be there dumping their stuff and then because it's not that a truck is coming in and putting it directly into that grinder.
Mr.
So
Tate,
just
I'm sorry. It's not 8 o'clock. It's 6 o'clock. Because
you're right.
I'm
Yeah,
working out my
you're right.
sleep at 6 a.m. and it's 6 days a week.
You're right.
And then the only day they don't show up is Sunday. So they would be doing this grinding 6 days a week. I don't know where you heard that they work partially. They don't work partially. They work 6 days a week. So partially is they don't work Sunday. I guess that's partial. They're there every day except for Sunday.
Huh.
And remember when I was complaining to you about when they were paving the street on Troy Avenue? They
Yes.
stopped. They stopped. They did the paving for them only at night, so they wouldn't interrupt their operations.
No, they work something out.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm just reading the thing again. I'm just seeing like key terms like discuss continued operation and proposed reconfigure. I'm just trying to see. They were very vague in what the intent is, but we need to try to get behind the curtain to see what's really going on over there and figure out why all of a sudden, you know?
That's correct. They're trying to smoke and mirror us.
Yeah, it's like the more you read it, and the way the meeting is playing back to me now. Obviously there was a lot of emotions in the meeting, but stripping that, just trying to just see the why. It wasn't clear in the meeting, and it's still not clear now. So I'm hoping that
And
we
they
can
left
collectively.
they left the caveat in there. They may do medical waste. They put a little, little door opening. They may do medical waste.
Which was the driving factor for the problems leading to the odor, right, in the past?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 6 a.m. It says it right here. 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Monday through Friday, Saturday, 6 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Mm-hmm. That's their current schedule.
Can
That's a
anyone
best.
speak to the can anyone speak to the other businesses next to, adjacent? I mean, I drive by there, but I'm never really. What other businesses are nearby?
Across the street.
What you say? I missed the
There's,
beginning part.
there's a paint store across the street.
Like the Benjamin Moore store you talking about?
No, that's down the block.
Okay. All right.
No, maybe it's no, you might be right. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is. The Benjamin, you're right. You're correct.
I know
The
the
Mercury
place.
store is down the block.
Mhm. Yeah, maybe we could reach out to their neighbors,
Yeah,
see how they feel about
there's a distributor across from them where Enterman used to be, and then there's a bakery, which is well one block away. But the back of the bakery would be affected by the thing too, which is Chantilly Bakery.
Right.
all right, so
And then around the
yeah,
corner is the soda distributor.
yeah, the soda district I'm definitely familiar with.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we should maybe I'll make efforts through the office to just, or maybe myself, really to just reach out to the neighbors, see if we could color the situation. They might have information that we're not privy to, right?
And then you have the
And
homeless shelter around the corner on Glenwood.
And then there's a church on East 45th and Glenwood, and
Right.
then you have the two you have two, I guess, nightclubs or whatever they call it, catering halls on 45th and Glenwood.
Right, and there's a church over there.
Yes,
he
a
mentioned
new
the
church.
church.
Yes.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll I'm sure they have an opinion, especially with the hours of operation.
And then isn't there a daycare center?
Has anybody got any contact from the school? Did we get anything from the school? Does the school have any history reports? Did they mention anything like that in the meeting? Did I miss that? I know that they
Subsequently,
contacted the school. I know that they contacted the school to try to test their sound and to see if they were using certain filtration, but I don't know if I missed anything as far as historically. Is it something that we could look up to see historical issues maybe the schools had, maybe people's reported asthma, etc.? Who's speaking, Allison?
I was saying I don't know about that, but they also said they didn't receive notice about that meeting either.
The school,
Right.
Yeah, the only
did she
school
mention?
that
I'm not misleading, right? She did mention, or
They said
their
Great
representative
Oaks
did?
received
Great,
notice.
I was going to say Great Oaks is
Great
the only
Oaks
one that
received
said they
notice.
received, yes.
But not the public school. Yeah.
She did mention that their engineers, if somebody reached out to the school, didn't say which school though, right? They said reached out to the school to see, or a question was asked about their windows, but she reached out to the school to see about their system or something like that. Did I hear that correctly that night?
Great
That there was
Oaks.
outreach?
It wasn't clear which schools they were referring to, but
Yeah.
based on insight during that evening from Great Oaks, it seems that there was some engagement there. But to what level, it's not clear.
All right, so that kind of pulled us into our new business already. But on this subject, do we have anything else? Definitely reach out. You'll be seeing some sort of communication from the office pertaining to this meeting. We're trying to get the necessary parties there. It's something that we can actually monitor and curate. And having the questions that are being generated now definitely help, but it doesn't limit the questions that will be answered. And should we get the questions answered, I'll be checking that website periodically beforehand. We'll get those questions distributed. Pretty sure that they're going to generate more questions, depending on how
Kwame,
they're answered.
sorry, Kwame, for the record, I just wanted to say that no one on the call that I heard was in favor of them doing their project.
I can agree to that.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just want to say that for the record.
Yeah. I don't think that there was any favorable. No, I didn't get the sense of that.
I also do want to say for the record, in terms of elected officials, that Assemblymember Waterman and her Deputy Chief of Staff, Chris Smith, did have a call with me about this. And Chris has been, granted they're, in Albany and back and forth and all of that. Chris did get me did put it in the chat, but I wanted to be sure it's on the record that Chris did get me the contact information for their government affairs person at the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, and they were CC'd on that letter. So I'm going to try to follow up with them anyway to just, we need some more support and understanding of this and to see what their office can provide. But I want to be sure on the record that there has been some support from Monique's office.
Thank you. All right, Khadijah, yes, your hands up still? A new question? Old question.
No, this is for new business.
New business. You have the floor.
Okay, so I spoke with one of the homeowners on the homes on East 37th. They were the homes that kind of exploded back in August of last year due to a
Yes.
gas leak from Con Ed. Their homes were demolished, and they were told by the state the Department of Building their homes had to be demolished. Their homes were demolished. The state, the Department of Building then demanded that an architectural be there as they demolish, and they had to pay for it. They no longer have insurance, no longer have any more funding, because to knock down the home and to pay for the architect, for the architect consultant to be on the premises as they demolish all of the homes that were affected by that explosion, all of their insurance money is now done, and the city is now kind of telling them to sell their homes to someone else, to sell the lot and kind of displace them. So they're looking for some type of assistance in regards to what rights do they really have when it wasn't their fault, and then the fact that Con Ed was actually out there messing with the pipes a day or two before the explosion took place.
That's incredible. And I didn't hear about follow-up from that. So we're saying that the city mandated that their domiciles were not structurally sound, so they forced them to demolish it. And they had to pay for someone to be on site. And they basically utilized all the funds from whatever their insurance claims are. And now they're almost being forced to sell, is what you're saying. Seems
To
like they're being
sell.
pressured to sell.
Mm-hmm.
Could you put
Yeah,
them in contact with me? I'm gonna give me a call.
sure.
Any persons or people that you have.
Sure. I
I'm
can
gonna try to
give me your number and I'll give it to them to reach out to
put
you.
it, yeah, I'll put it in the chat, sure. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, I want to see what's going on with that. And of course, there's going to be resources, organizations that can help them, but we have to understand how they got here. You know, I mean, we know from outwardly how they got here, but it's a collective, right? It was like three or four buildings, right?
It was 4 attached homes because they're
Yeah.
all attached.
Thank you for that. If you can, yeah, just have them get in contact with me as soon as possible. See what can be done. Maybe we could give them some additional funding to support some workarounds, you know. Um, even from as far back as the claim, because technically the claim should cover the actual building of the new property or the new home, you know. That's what insurance is for. Seems like there's seems like something's missing there, you know. So
What
definitely
about
want to have
legal
a
counsel?
conversation.
Or they're
Count.
underinsured.
It could be
No,
underwater as well, but I mean, there's no way to
the,
know without
the
discussing, right?
problem is that the problem is because the explosion took place on one person's property and it affected the other one. That person is now, I don't really know the full details. All I know is that the other person's homeowner's insurance, after paying out for their one, canceled it and will no longer pay for all the other homes that were affected by it. So it now leaves them out of any type of assistance because their insurance only covers the amount for the value of the home and not for the explosion or the rebuild of the home.
Let's see.
And because the city asked for it to be demolished and then to pay for the actual architecture consultant to be on the premises each day, and his chunk took up more than close to $100,000 just for him to be there to demolish the homes. It's where the problem kind of is.
So I remember from the news article. I don't remember. Yeah, I know that the issue came from inside of the house. Not that I'm looking for fault or anything like that, but I'm just trying to see. Right, the issue was from a building, from like a stove, a leaky stove.
That's what they thought, but
That's
when
what
they
was
did the
reported.
further,
Yeah, yeah, that's
that's
what
what
was
was
reported.
reported. But when they did further investigation, they realized that Con Ed was actually outside playing with the pipes and something wasn't done properly, and that's what kind of caused the explosion.
So it definitely seems like some other party should be involved. All right, thank you. New business. Has anyone else heard anything pertaining to that?
Yeah, my hand was raised.
Oh, yes. Treasurer
Yeah, I
James?
mean, to me, this sounds like a legal issue.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
I mean, I think in the interest of time, that they need to look at an attorney who's going to be aggressive enough to go after either Con Edison or the insurance company for the wherever the explosion took place. So I'm not saying that we can't help or we shouldn't help, but in the interest of time, I think they should consider, getting legal advice to move forward.
I will relate all this information into the homeowners after this meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Quashi?
Yes, I have a question on a different matter.
Sure.
If someone has an electric bike parked in their front yard, is that illegal? Do you know?
Parked in their front yard. It's probably not. I would have
Okay.
to check, but it's probably not. I know that they have like mandates for the batteries and the chargers in buildings, certain
Mhm.
buildings now. There's certain rules for that, but in their front yard, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if
Okay.
that'd be illegal or not.
Because I know with all the fires.
Yeah, there's been a lot of fires.
Yeah. And
If you live near a fire truck, near a fire engine, but it's the frequency has definitely increased in these winter months. It's been a little crazy. But yeah, I would look at the legal. I don't think it would be illegal. Is it the person that owns the property leaving their bike
No, it's the
outside?
tenant. He
It's
has the
probably.
bike covered up for the winter.
Oh, yeah, I'll look into it, but I can't say I'm not sure. I don't really feel like it would be. 'Cause I see bikes kind of locked up outside all the time, you know? And even some of these city bikes are electric now. Believe it or not. They have like internal engines and people don't even need to pedal or ride them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll try to reach out and see if there's anything legally
Because
maybe
I don't have a problem writing the 311 ticket.
maybe you should. You know,
Uh-huh.
maybe they'll be if they could provide clarity. I'm gonna look on our end. I'm gonna reach out to the department. I don't see, I'm not a person that deals with that from day to day. I don't know if they're violating something.
I dropped the link in the chat, but I think
Mhm.
it's recommended. I would recommend to call 311 because they have immediate information
Yeah.
and they
Okay.
will provide guidance.
Sure. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Oh yeah, that's it for me. All right. Sorry. Anything else pertaining to Ms. James? Your hands? Let me see now. Chair James?
Pardon me?
Yeah, your hand was raised.
Oh, sorry. I
This
apologize.
one before? All right. Anything pertaining to any other new business? Right, it's you.
Yes, yes. Sorry, I forgot.
All right.
Just to let everyone know that those people who may remember, and I can't remember how many years ago now. Well, I think it was 2021, maybe. I can't remember exactly, but we Brooklyn Level Up partnered with CB17's Land Use Committee to do door-to-door campaigning around the tax lien sale. And fortunately, the tax lien sale is back and it will actually be starting the end of May. To that end, we would like to work together as well as involve the Block Association Committee and some other committees and community residents writ large who want to help to make sure that we can help let our neighbors know about the exemptions that are available, how to get on payment plans, how to basically get support that they need to protect their homes from ending up on, sold, for having liens sold for taxes. People could lose their home for as little as like $5,000 to $14,000. Obviously, that would be a loss of generational wealth and just displacement in general. And we want to be sure that we can provide as much support to community members as we can to help them avoid this. So we are hopefully going to receive actual funding support to mount a large campaign. And if people are willing to go door to door to help make sure that we can help people fill out forms and get themselves out of this trap before the day that in the future where hopefully we can abolish the tax lien sale writ large. We would really like to speak. So you can email me. And I also want to shout out our board member, Joan Erskine, who's on the call, who is an ardent member for us on the Abolish the Tax Lien Sale Coalition. So, Joan, if there's anything else that I forgot to add or should add now, please speak up. But hopefully people will, on the community board especially, will jump in. We need to make sure that we're doing what we can to protect this last bastion of especially Black homeownership. So that's it.
If I may, Ms. Joan Erskine, what happens with the tax lien is just a little bit of clarification. It's not that someone buys their home for several $1,000s. What happens is they owe several $1,000s plus fees plus interest. Once the lien is sold, it goes to a servicer, which ups the interest and the fees, so it makes it even harder for them to get out of the hole. And ultimately, what the lien holders can do is move to have in court to have the house sold to satisfy the lien. That's how the house gets sold. But it is an ongoing problem. It does displace small homeowners in communities such as ours. So yeah, help. Thank you.
Thank you. Has the list been generated? Like it did
The
the last
list,
time? Yeah.
it's not released yet.
I
I
remember that was like
believe,
a key component for how
yes,
we targeted.
there have been the coalition has moved to do a lot of work to help make the situation a little bit better, part of which is that nonprofits who are in this work will actually get notice of the spreadsheet that contains the homes that are on the lien sale about a week before it's publicly released. That doesn't give us a lot of time to try to get headway, to get community members who are in that situation the information they need, and also most importantly in conversation with getting payment plans or getting exemptions that they qualify for or exit forms completed. But we have to do what we can with that to try to stave off the speculative market, who will be targeting, especially as you already see, the properties in the R6 zone that are not built to the full capacity of what they could build will obviously be targeted by the speculative community, and people will take advantage of the fact that people will panic being in this situation, and you don't often make the best decisions when you panic. Not to mention, we also have a lot of homes in our community that are owned by people who do not live here, and so they don't actually know the full value of their properties, and so therefore speculators can take advantage of their ignorance to basically negotiate them out of their wealth. So we'll do what we can to get the word out, but obviously the support that we can get from community members who look out for their neighbors, because the reality is what happens with homes, we have high foreclosure rates in our community as well. What happens to those homes doesn't stay just affecting those homeowners. It impacts everyone, property values and the like. So the more help we can get, the better.
I remember. I was like one of the first for me. Do we have a speculative date for when the sale's supposed to happen?
The end of May is when the sale happens. I believe that the release date for the list is officially February 12th.
Yeah, the idea of giving, that was one thing we worked really hard in the coalition to get the list before it's made public. It has to be made public because of laws of letting everybody know what's going on, making sure that everybody has an interest in the house is notified, because you may not always know who all has an interest in the house. So there's no way of not letting the list go public. However, we did negotiate that the community organizations could get the list a week in advance. The list is supposed to come out on the 12th. So whether we're going to get it or not, I don't know. This lien sale is, I believe, May 19th. I don't have the date in my head, so we don't have a whole lot of lien time. But
we didn't the last time either.
no,
Yeah,
you
sure.
never do. It's 3 months, and
Yeah.
that's the real problem. Is people get notified that that liens are going to be sold on their house, and they have 3 months time in order to ameliorate a situation that usually has been growing for years. Because to be on the tax lien sale, I believe you have to owe $5,000 in taxes for 3 years. So anybody who has that kind of problem isn't going to be able to fix it with no help in 3 months. So that's why it's essential that we be able to reach out to them and make them aware of what they can do to save the property.
Last thing, people also think this is really just a homeowner problem, but tenants need to be just as vigilant about this situation, because especially in 1 and 2 family homes, you know, it's everyone has to be the first line of defense to save the home, be you the homeowner or the tenant who lives there. So, you know, if notices come in the mail, especially in that case where you have an absentee landlord, getting them that information is pivotal, because it means that you too could be potentially displaced. So we want to be sure that everyone is involved.
All right, thank you. No problem. If the list gets distributed, just please share with me and let me know when. And yeah, definitely, we probably can't wait for the other meeting, so we'll probably have to. Maybe, I mean, from the timing from when the list gets released in the short month of February, we could probably come up with something in our March meeting to really aggressively address the issue with the list in hand. It's also important to know that this type of list is also like an avenue for all of the development that's potentially coming as well. It's another way outside of, people buying deeds or thieving deeds from residents. It's another way for developers to acquire properties or to push property owners out so that they can get subsequent developments made. It's an important avenue. And sometimes as simple as, maybe somebody passed away and the next in line isn't informed and they're not aware of it in a 3-month period, they don't have it paid, then the lien starts, and I think it's might still be a couple of years redemption period, and then all of a sudden you have a 6-story building where a 2-story building was, and nobody knows how. This is where it starts, something as small as this. So thank you. Keep us surprised and keep me apprised from when the list goes out. And I think we did a fairly good job before of getting the information out. Everybody split into sectors, knocked on doors. I think I probably had like a dozen people to do myself. Maybe spoke to 5 and was able to leave informational pamphlets there. That's how I remember it.
The ask is going to be also that I think it's pivotal that we work with also the
Block
social
association?
services and block association / housing committee. So if we can get the 3 committees to take this work together as a project on this, I think that would be great. So maybe if you can facilitate an email with us, with those committee chairs and committee members, and then we can think about next steps. Thank you.
No problem. I'll get that out along with the summary for City of Yes and other things. Did I see your hand up, Joan? Did I miss that?
It's fine, thank you.
All right. Do we have any other? Was that new or unfinished?
I have a question. In regards to the building on East 98 that was supposed to turn into a migrant shelter. Do we have an update on that?
I don't have an update on that. No.
Okay.
But we'll say that the ongoing question that I usually get is the development from Mr. Goldstein and his crew over there in the East 98th Street development. You're probably going to start seeing traction on that now, because it seems like they kind of were made aware that the City of Yes was happening and they paused. And because of the location of that particular development, it triggers certain benefits from that original development we saw. It actually allows him to get higher, believe it or not. I'm speaking to something that everybody may not be familiar about, but people that's been in the committee for a long time knows about the initial development conversation we had. We spoke with a developer in concept form. We never really got to speak to him. He kind of just sent us his proposal in concept form to try to get feedback, and then he disappeared. But he probably disappeared so that, oh, he probably was made aware that this proposal was coming. And I think had he gone forward with the development as it was, he would have given back a lot of yield. But with all of the things that are in place now, he's probably going to be back at the table, or may not even need to come at the table at all. I do think that he did need to do a yearlook because it was a zoning thing, but he's probably, at the time he had purchased about 90% of the block. I would have to follow up to see if that's in fact 100 now. But I'll do some research to see if anything has changed from then to now. And I think we skipped, or did we do unfinished business? I think we did that. Anything, I think, huh?
Well, I wanted to say so that East 98th Street, right up in New York, is a migrant shelter there. I went past it and I inquired what was going on, and the woman told me she works for the city, but it's a migrant shelter.
Speaking of migrant shelters, I follow up on that, but there has been activity with ICE in our neighborhood. They have been around. It's not really a funny situation, but they have been around. They have been targeting specific areas. I'm not really sure what the success rate is, but their presence has been known, and they are around in our neighborhood. If you know anybody that's in jeopardy or may have some issues, just have them reach out. There's organizations that can aid them, give them the proper information to be able to handle and possibly deal with that situation forthright. I mean, a lot of people are operating out of a place of fear now. It's not really good when you could possibly have some time to actually put something in place to get you protected. So if you know anybody, just have them reach out to the office and we'll try to guide them to the necessary party that can aid them. Hiding
Hello?
isn't the way.
We were at Kings County today.
Excuse me?
ICE was at Kings County.
Hi, good evening. This is Joan. My hand is raised.
I see your hand.
Thank you.
Acknowledge.
Thank you. So I unmuted myself specifically to talk about ICE. The Congresswoman had a training today from a group called Make the Road. However, there's a group called the New York Immigration Coalition is doing some awesome work around this, where they have specific videos and trainings on their website that provide guidance. Pastor Monroe also did a training, I want to say last week or the week before, wherein he provided a hotline number. Kwame, I'll drop it in our chat because I took a snapshot of the picture from his post, and it gives you a 24/7 number that you can call for support. The most important thing I'll say to you today is just be mindful, because people are predatory to begin with, much less now when there's actual when people are inflamed or distressed, they may take steps that are to their detriment. So just reach out to the Immigration Coalition, reach out to that number, reach out to the Congresswoman. They've got, it's federal matter, so they have help and support. Their training, like I said, was today. So I just wanted to make sure that I uplift that to let you know that there's hope and support for our family members, our friends, our neighbors that need this support. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Ms. Scott?
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Yes, I'm fairly new to this committee, so I'm just learning a lot right there. There is a building on Snyder and East 35th. I think it's 302 or something of that nature. It's relatively new. An old building was there and they put up a new structure there. Seemed like it's apartments there. But I know a few people in the community are wondering looking for a place to rent, and there's no sign there or anything like that on the building to see how they could apply or whatever it is. Do you know anything about that building?
No, I would have to
On
look up.
on East 35th. I think it's 302, 303. East 35th.
I can look it up, but buildings like that typically have their leasing agents put up things prior to, once it gets closer to completion.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with the block, and I know the street that you're talking about, but that was stagnant for a very long time.
Yes, it
Right? It's
was.
across the street. It's across the street from another building, right? Almost like
Right.
a
Right.
like a 6 or 7 story building.
Right.
It had green boards around it for a very long. It used to be a house.
It used to be a house. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know there was some activity going on over there. You're
Yeah.
saying that the building
It
is
used to
actually
be
completed?
it looks completed. Yeah. And quite a few people have been walking by, and they want someplace, but they don't know what to do, where to. Yeah.
I'll see if I can get something, but then they'll just have to, they'll have to reach out
Okay.
to
I'll
me
reach
or
out to you then. I'll reach out.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
I'll see what I can find. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks very much, and thanks for the meeting. I'm really learning a lot. I'm new on this committee, and so thanks a lot. You just said something there about the liens on property and thing, and I think I need to, so I may be reaching out to someone to see how I could help the neighborhood. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Just to touch on the immigration situation again, everybody's correct. People who operate in a position of fear and survival, right, aren't really going to be thinking with tranquil thoughts, right? So you have to be understanding. Not really understanding, but you have to expect that people are going to have reactions, right? It's happening extremely fast since the administration has taken over. Probably the fastest I've ever seen anything get pushed and executed on. So it's very aggressive. And when people are put into those positions, the response is unpredictable, right? So just be careful. Um, be careful, but if you do know someone, just tell them know that there are options and there are avenues for protection and resources that could potentially help this situation. You'd be surprised how it affects. Like you won't even know that it affected somebody that you possibly been dealing with for a very long time. So, just be mindful of that. People are taking their kids out of school. It's a serious situation. Seems like we're dealing with a lot all at once, which was a concern I had with administration change. Not that the policies were needed or not, that's just a matter of opinion, but how quickly everything would happen because one, it was his last opportunity to do so, but I don't know if I've ever seen so many things in a domino successive fashion happen so quickly that they're going to start overlapping each other in my lifetime. So just be careful and, help, but be careful. All right. All right. I want to do this quick. I think the meeting minutes. I think we have enough here. Do we have enough? I think we may potentially have enough here to vote on the meeting minutes for
We don't have
approval.
enough. We have quorum.
Yeah,
Mr. O'Brien.
yeah. So the meeting minutes went out for November and December. Can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes? Anybody?
I Khadijah approve motion meetings.
You move to approve
Yeah,
the
yeah.
meeting.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I moved to approve the motion minutes. I'm tired, guys. I'm sorry.
No, I'm trying to get us out of here. And do I have a second?
Joe Nurskin second.
All right, open up for review. Is there any amendments, additions, changes, errors that need to be made for the meeting minutes for December and November 2024? Hearing none? Yes.
I just want to find out one quick question. What happened to that building on Church and Rogers? It looks like it's completed.
After we approve the meetings, I'll just
Yeah, there's a motion on the floor.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any amendments, changes, additions, adjustments that need to be made to the November meeting, December meeting minutes? All right, hearing none. All in favor of approving the meeting minutes for November and December of 2024, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. If you have any abstentions, you could claim that now.
I abstained for November. I wasn't there.
Very good. One abstention. And from the math in my head, I'm going to say that that motion passed. Meeting minutes have been approved. Thank you. As for the house on, you said Rogers and Church. I didn't
Yes,
get to drive by there. I don't like to drive by there. I actually got to go on foot there, but I did see some action over there. Some more action. What was the question again? I'm sorry.
I just want to know if it's already completed. When they're gonna do you possibly know when they're gonna bus stop back? Because everybody's complaining about it.
About what in specific? I'm sorry.
There was a bus stop there.
Okay.
We moved it for the construction, but now it's pretty much over.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we don't have a transportation chair at this time, so I'll reach out to the office and see what we can do.
Yeah.
Pertaining to that. There's usually a time horizon of when that's supposed to come back. Because they only permitted to put it away for a certain amount of time during construction. So I'll follow up on the bus stop. Bus stop, right? Church and Rogers?
Yes, correct.
All right.
The office would
Time
also
is-
reach out to the elected official, the council member in that district, to have them follow up as well. So we apply pressure from both points.
Thank you. Great. The time is now 9:12. Can someone make a motion to adjourn?
Joan Alexander Bakardine moves to adjourn the meeting at 9:12 p.m.
Very quickly, very quickly. We have a second?
Joe
Ah,
Nurskin,
everyone's-
second.
All right. Motion has been moved and properly seconded. Thank you, everybody. Happy Black History Month.